The Beatles battle Nixon's secret plot to exile John Lennon. What if the most infectious weapon against a war wasn't a bomb, but a Beatles tune? Imagine the Oval Office buzzing with paranoia, not over spies or saboteurs, but a mop-topped musician crooning, "Give peace a chance," to millions, rallying the youth vote against the draft and the draft dodger-in-chief. In the early 1970s, as Vietnam's body count climbed and America's streets burned with protest, President Richard Nixon didn't just dislike John Lennon, he unleashed the full fury of the FBI to silence him forever. Through 281 pages of declassified files, we now know it was a calculated crusade. Wiretaps, informants, and a deportation dragnet aimed at booting the ex-Beatle back to Britain. This wasn't about a minor pot bust, it was about crushing a voice that could swing the 1972 election. Strap in as we unravel this rock and roll conspiracy, where lyrics met law enforcement in a showdown that nearly rewrote history. The Revolution rocked, Lennon's descent into activism. By 1971, John Lennon had traded Liverpool's fog for New York's grit, trading stadium screams for street-level rebellion. Fresh off the Beatles' breakup, he and Yoko Ono dove headfirst into the anti-war maelstrom, channeling fury into anthems like Imagine and Power to the People. But it was the December 10th, 1971 John Sinclair Freedom Rally in Ann Arbor that lit the fuse. Sinclair, a radical poet and White Panther co-founder, was rotting in Michigan prison for passing 2 joints to undercover cops, a 10-year sentence that screamed injustice. Lennon headlined a star-studded bill with Bob Seger, Stevie Wonder, and Allen Ginsberg, belting out "It Ain't Fair, John Sinclair" to 15,000 chanting fans. The next day, Michigan's Supreme Court sprung Sinclair free, crediting the rally's roar. To Nixon's inner circle, this was no concert, it was a blueprint for chaos. A fresh-faced electorate of 18-year-olds empowered by the 26th Amendment could be swayed by a Beatle with a microphone. As one FBI memo later dripped with dread, Lennon has been active in the New Left movement and could be a real security risk. The surveillance state switched on, tailing Lennon's every chord. The plot thickened in early 1972 as whispers of Lennon's national concert tour to register voters and torch the Republican National Convention in Miami rippled through Washington. Enter Senator Strom Thurmond, the segregationist firebrand, who fired off a February 4th memo to Attorney General John Mitchell, outlined Lennon's radical ties to Jerry Rubin and Abbie Hoffman, then dropped the hammer. If Lennon's visa were terminated, it would be a strategic countermeasure. Mitchell, Nixon's hatchet man, looped in J. Edgar Hoover, who greenlit a dragnet. FBI files ballooned to 281 pages crammed with clippings of Lennon's lyrics. The Pope smokes dope. Poster misidentifying folk singer David Peel as Lennon. Informant snitches on his Greenwich Village hangs. And frantic telexes about his avowed intention to engage in disruptive activities. The deportation machine revved up on March 1st, 1972, when Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS, revoked Lennon's visa, citing his 1968 London marijuana conviction, a misdemeanor that suddenly loomed like treason. But the files betray the real motive: neutralize the peacenik before he amplified protests at the GOP convention. Hoover's April 1972 directive was chilling. New York office will be responsible for closely following Lennon's activities until time of actual deportation. By July 27, as Miami's heat baked the city, a New York agent urged the Bureau arrest Lennon if at all possible on possession of narcotics charges, which would make him more immediately deportable. They even circulated a botched wanted poster, wrong address, 150 Bank Street instead of 105, wrong photo, begging local cops to snag him in a setup bust. Lennon, sensing the noose, told friends, "They're tapping my phone. Men in suits follow me everywhere." Though the FBI denied wiretaps in the files, the paranoia was prescient. Their web ensnared his every move. If tales of rock stars versus the machine, where a simple chord could topple a presidency, have you hooked on history's wild underbelly? Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Behind the Veiled Truths, for more pulse-pounding exposés that decode the archives. The personal siege, Lennon's fight for sanctuary. The human cost cut deep. Lennon, battling Yoko's custody war with her ex and dreaming of a quiet American life, watched his tour evaporate under legal threats. Rubin and Hoffman begged him to rally in Miami, but his lawyer Leon Wilds warned, "One wrong move and you're on a plane to Heathrow." So John, if he had been deported, Yoko would have stayed behind. Activist Stuart Albert later reflected, he didn't want to be separated, so he canceled the plans. Nixon's ploy worked. Lennon went radio silent on protest, his voice muffled just as the youth vote surged. On August 30th, 1972, memo crowed victory. For the past several months, there has been no information that the subject is active in the New Left. Yet the INS hammered on, issuing 60-day expulsion orders through 1973, each appealed in marathon court battles. White House logs show memos zipping to H.R. Haldeman, Nixon's gatekeeper, tracking the Lennon neutralization. By 1975, with Watergate's stench forcing Nixon's resignation, the tide turned. New York Supreme Court overturned the order and Ford's team relented. The FOIA Odyssey, cracking the vault. The file's release was its own thriller. Days after Lennon's 1980 murder, historian John Weiner filed a Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) request, sparking a 25-year cat-and-mouse with the FBI. The Bureau dribbled out redacted pages, first in 1983, more in 1997, blacking out national security, swaths that hid nothing but embarrassment like a parrot trained to squawk right on. At activist meetings, Weiner and the ACLU sued in 1983, battling to the Supreme Court. Victory came piecemeal. 1991 exposed Thurmond's plot. 2000 detailed the drug sting schemes. The final 10 pages dropped in 2006, confirming Lennon's extremist label was pure fiction. As Weiner quipped, this doesn't really have much to do with John Lennon. It's about the FBI's obsession with secrecy. Strings that still vibrate, a warning in the wings. Nixon's war on Lennon wasn't just a footnote. It was a masterclass in weaponizing bureaucracy against dissent, echoing in today's battles over visas for activists and surveillance of artists. What if Imagine had rallied millions at Miami 72? Could it have tipped the scales? The files end with a whimper. Lennon appears to be radically oriented. However, he does not give the impression he is a true revolutionist. But his silence cost us that revolution. As Declassified dust settles, one truth rings eternal. Power fears a song more than a shout. If this clash of chords and cuffs has you yearning to decode more hidden harmonies of history, from psychic spies to lost nukes, subscribe to Behind the Veil Truths on YouTube. We've got the next vault-busting saga queued up. Don't let the silence win.